Hey guys, this is Max's Fearless Youth podcast. I'm Katie, and
I'm Liz.
Max's Fearless Youth is a podcast where we support people through the arts and use that to prevent suicide and substance abuse. It's named after Max's Kansas City, which was a very popular bar restaurant in the city during the 70s. And they really supported the arts. A lot of celebrities went there and really created the foundation of what we stand for today.
Yeah. Um so today we're going to be talking about our experiences and what we went through as teenagers during the pandemic and how it was like for us and what was really going on, because I know a lot of people, everyone has their own different perspective in this, because it was, I think, a really big challenge for all of us, but especially for teenagers, since it's such a important time in our lives for our development, and then having all that isolation and how it affected us.
Absolutely. You were what, in seventh grade when COVID hit?
Yes.
Yeah, I was in eighth grade at the time. It was very stressful. We started the year off normally, but then as it progressed, we heard of COVID, and then eventually we had to go home. We thought it would be for 2 weeks, ended up being for 2 years. And I graduated from middle school during lockdown. We had a really weird graduation. We had to socially distance and do this scavenger hunt through the town with cars. I went to a smaller private school, so we didn't have all the state resources for stuff. Most of it was through tuition, which wasn't that bad. And it was a very strange experience. And starting high school, which it's a pretty large school, Kingston High School, I was very lost, starting virtually and then going towards hybrid learning, navigating a school with only very few people in it. It's now over 1,700 students, but at the time it felt like a ghost town. And the teachers struggling between the students in the classroom and the students at home, falling behind on work. It was a very stressful and universal experience for all of us, I feel.
Yeah. I remember when I first heard about COVID, I kind of thought it was funny. It was like, oh my gosh, there's a virus. And I thought that the problem was so far away and it actually couldn't even reach us, because you hear stuff happening in other countries and you're like, oh, that's really bad. But you never actually think it's going to come and affect you in your country and in your home and your life. But COVID did, and it was kind of a big smack in the face, because it was kind of just, oh, 2 weeks off school, super fun. I don't have to do my homework that night. It was a Friday. I could just stay home and relax. And then it just kept getting canceled. No school, no school, no school, until it was just, okay, school's off. And near the end of the year, teachers didn't know how to respond to the hybrid, to the all virtual learning. So sometimes kids wouldn't even show up to class. It would be one kid in class online, or it would just be no one, and the teacher would just be sitting there by themselves. And it was really stressful, I know, for my teachers. And for me, it was a really big obstacle I had to go through concerning my mental health. It really impacted me, because I was really social. I was a really social person, but after COVID, it kind of made me really introverted. And I think it's very, I think it's common with this topic that a lot of people, stopped talking to a lot of people and they lost certain friends, or they just kind of it was transformative negatively and positively for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. How is it positively changing you? What did you spend your time on when you were stuck at home?
I think that at first it was easier. I first, hang out with my family. We were going outside, and we were playing a lot of games. But then it got to a point where we all kind of just got sick of just only having each other, and you can only FaceTime and call your friends so many times until it's like, okay, like I need to see you physically. Like I need you, because I feel like humans are are such social
Social?
creatures that with that prolonged period of just isolation, it really can make people go crazy.
Yeah, it's the same situation for me. I was already pretty isolated. I lived about a 45-minute drive from my school because private schools don't have to abide by school districts at all. So not only could I not like even just step outside and see one of my friends, I was like in the middle of nowhere, living with my grandparents and my mom, my dog, in isolation, really. But one of the things that helped me get through it was my music. I'm a classically trained pianist. I've been playing piano at this point for 12 years. And I wasn't really good. I didn't make much progress because my grandfather was my teacher. And before I moved to their house, when I moved to New York, I only saw him on like weekends sometimes or breaks. I didn't really get consistent lessons. But during COVID, he was always there. Uh, he was teaching, or not teaching, he was being a doctor from home because he was older. And my mom was doing the same. She was a doctor during COVID, doing telehealth visits because of her asthma. It was it was a rough situation for everybody, but I had nothing to do other than practice piano for several hours a day, and that's when my skill really just skyrocketed. So after hours and hours of practicing, it became more fun. My grandfather would get involved. I would garden with my mom. She's obsessed with her plant babies, as a lot of moms are. And so that's kind of how my family got through with it.
Yeah, I know with like the music and stuff. I picked up a few other instruments during COVID. Um, cause
What instruments do you play?
um, I quit band this year, but I played tuba and trombone, and then
That's
I
where I saw
played
you.
um, I was in orchestra. I played cello, and during COVID, I really started playing my guitar more, and I also play the electric bass. So during that time, like music just really helped, just to just where it let me put my energy into something. It gave me something to put my energy into, and it kept me away from just sitting on my phone all day, or just trying to do something that could have negatively impacted me. So yeah, music really helped.
All right. I feel in a way COVID kind of helped me get over a mental health crisis that was sort of existing before COVID happened. Time with my family and my dog, away from the social pressures of school. How was your transition into high school during this time of like uncertainty?
I think that going into high school, for anyone, is just a really big jump, and doing it during COVID, everyone was wearing masks. You didn't really have that connection with anyone because we were all so new. It was a new building, and no one knew each other, and we couldn't even see each other's faces, and no one really talked. Kind of just sat there, got in and got out, and we didn't really have connections with our teachers. And at first, it was hard. It was a feeling. You got a feeling that you didn't really want to come to school because it was just another form of online learning because everything was still really digital. Even now they're trying to move everything digitally, but then everything was really digital. And yeah, you didn't really get that experience, that classic experience. Because when I was younger, when I thought about going to high school, I was like, okay, I had like expectations, and COVID ruined those expectations. And at first, I was really angry. I was like, why? Why does this have to happen to us? Why, like, especially the past few classes, like the class of 2020 and down, uh, they really, we really got robbed of an experience that a lot of people cherish for keep, yeah, they cherish for the rest of their lives, and we got robbed of that. And at first, I was mad. I was like, I didn't get to experience certain experiences that regular people in America usually go through. And but yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. It was very strange. I remember my first period class when we started doing hybrid learning. It was my freshman year. After a couple months of doing it online and literally just sleeping through my first four classes because nobody actually cared. Um, my class was biology, first period. It was early in the morning. Everybody was tired. There were only two other people in the classroom with me besides the teacher, and those two people were my best friends from middle school. So it was a very like sheltered experience, I feel, because I didn't meet new people until like other classes later in the day, and even then we had to social distance and not really talk to each other. Eventually I did end up meeting more people as restrictions lessened and we started going back to school full time, but it was already like stunted a bit, you know. I didn't really get it freshman year. I didn't get to do band freshman year because, you know, COVID shut down all of the band stuff. I did band in private school, but that didn't really like translate into the public school system as well. So when I asked about it, my guidance counselor just said, "Oh yeah, we don't have it this year." Yeah, even though they did, it was kind of a lie. But the the springtime, I was on the varsity women's golf team freshman year, and the team captain was one of the band director's daughters, Mr. G's daughter, and she and I were chatting, and I told her I play piano. I've been playing for many years, and she's like, "Oh, that's awesome. We need more people in band. Do you want me to talk to my dad and schedule a meeting with him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love that." And then a few days later, he sends me a chat on Teams. He's like, "Hey, I'm in this building. Come visit us, and you know, maybe we'll get you in band." I was back when they were renovating the music wing, and I show up. I talk to the other band director. Shows me a marimba. I play it. It's the same format as a piano. And then the next year, I was put on band. I joined Pit, the front ensemble. I do mallet percussion now. I started last year, not knowing anything about mallets, just figuring it out as I went along. Our field show was a disaster. And then this year, we got second place in our division, and I did an all state solo and got a 98. So COVID held me back, made me miss out on a year of such a wonderful experience. But now I'm back stronger than ever when it comes to that. What did COVID really prevent you from doing in terms of like activities and stuff?
Um, I was really just always outgoing, like trying to do everything, but COVID really it it really changed how I acted around people. It made me used to be really, really talkative, but I realize now that I don't really talk much around people. And in that translated in my I used to be a competitive cheerleader. I used to do competitive gymnastics. Um, and that all changed. I quit everything. I just wanted to. It really was really hard um because sometimes it was just like, I'm already alone right now. I just want to be alone all the time now. Even after COVID's over, I still don't know how to get back to that outgoing personality. I still just want to be alone. And with my activities, um, I tend to do more things like I run and I hurdle on the track team, and that's really a solo event. You don't really have to train with other people to get better. You train by yourself. And with the music, um, just with the music, you can practice by yourself. You don't really need to have a bunch of people around you to 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 get better. So that really, yeah, I think that's what COVID did. It really, I think it brought me back in my um like changed my personality. It made me, it really changed like how I acted around people.
It's really sad, and that's a common theme I've seen with a lot of kids in our school. People are glued to their phones. They don't really participate in classes that much, and teachers are kind of disheartened by it, and also more social people are. That's why I kind of like the more interactive classes, like band. You get to do stuff and actually like put yourself out there, but a lot of people are just not interested in it anymore. It's what COVID did, you're in your own little world, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah, I know that a reason why I ended up quitting band was it was I loved band, but it got to a point where like I would wake up and I was like, oh, I have, because I used to alternate band and orchestra, and I would just wake up and be like, okay, today I have band or I have band camp, and it got to like I got it started like getting me physically sick. I would get so anxious. I would start having panic attacks about it. I like I would go to band camp, and then I would just like not be able to breathe. I would just be like, I need to leave. I would start crying, and it just it got really bad to a point where it's like I was having conversations with my therapist, and she was like, you can't keep doing this. I ended up having to go to the hospital one time for an incident because the stress of it and how it just made me feel with everyone, because the band at our school is really big.
Yeah, like 200 people. It's crazy.
And it just got to a point where it's like I don't even want to stay with these 10 people in my section. I'm getting nervous. I'm hyperventilating. I'm about to have a panic attack. Like I'm about to faint. I'm like something's gonna happen. Got to a point where it's like I can't keep doing this to myself. So I need to get out for my own physical and mental health. And it was hard. It was really hard because music, I really love playing music, producing music. And it was either choosing over something I love and my health, and I chose my health over it, and it was really hard. And even now when I walk in the building, I try to I try to avoid like the band wing or the music wing because it makes me sad because I know that um like I have such a deep love for music, but when I did participate, it just brought me like so much pain.
Yeah, yeah, it's really sad. COVID sort of did that to you. And I know that happened to like some other people. One of my friends, uh, she's in your grade. She wanted to do band her freshman year as well, but she couldn't take it. And part of it is just the fact that band camp is absolutely hell. But coming back from COVID, not seeing people, to going to a crowded like area full of band kids and practicing music for 7 hours a day, it's very stressful and confusing. The only reason I was probably able to do it was because my section is more isolated. We don't have to march. We don't have to like coordinate with the other sections. We're in our own little space. We practice on the top of the hill. So I guess that's sort of how I was able to do it. But yeah, for a lot of people, it is really hard.
Yeah, it was getting to a point where, like, I know this happens to a lot of kids because band camp is really hard, but I would I would wake up and or I would get in the car to go to band camp, and as I'm in the parking lot sitting, I would just get like this pit in my stomach, and I like there were times where I would literally throw up, and it's like I can't do this. I like COVID really set me back in a lot of aspects of my personality and my life because now I have to take it slower with how I interact with new people in certain situations because I don't feel comfortable with doing anything anymore. I don't really feel I feel like I'm going to it put a lot of like negative thoughts in my mind like oh this person's going to judge this person's going to do this and it really set me back a lot.
Yeah. A lot of people are more self conscious after COVID, too. You know, you were so like hidden behind the screens and in the safety of your own home. You're just not used to being around so many people, especially in a new environment like high school. You know, we're like walking through the hallways and we don't know a lot of people in a massive school. So it's always scary. And I experienced that too, you know, the anxiety of people looking at you, of people judging you. It was very rough going through COVID for everybody. It was so frustrating not being able to do what you normally would do. And COVID held me back for an additional year in terms of like activities and stuff because I didn't know what was out there because of COVID. It took them another year after we got back to school full time for them to like start doing activities, extracurriculars again. Last year, I was in band, and that was about it. And this year, I'm doing several new clubs. I'm in yearbook. I do the photography for yearbook, some of it. I do some advocacy clubs. I do the climate club and period power, which fights for women's rights. And I do the morning announcements at the school too. That wasn't really an option during COVID. That wasn't a thing. I mean, I'm sure they like recorded it and posted it somewhere, but that wasn't something that you actively watched as a class. It was something that you would watch in your own home and be sort of depressed because you couldn't do anything. So COVID really just messed me up. But now I have a loaded schedule. I can do what I want. I can choose my classes. That's something that COVID took away as well. And we're free now, more or less. You know, COVID is still hanging over us a little bit, but it's less of an issue, less of a restraint now.
Yeah, and I know especially during high school since it's such a weird time in our lives, like in most people in America's lives, it's like it's it's such a weird place where you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want to do, and you can either be treated like a child or an adult, and it's such a gray zone, and it's like it's everyone's awkward, um, and everyone's changing, and already going through that, and then having COVID on top of it, and not being able to even express yourself and to even try to join new clubs or try new activities, not having that option in a time where you desperately need that, it really it it's really stunts a lot of people in their mental growth as regular people. It I feel like COVID was just really a hard pill, still a hard pill to swallow that we had to go through that. And we're still we're still feeling the effects of it. I know I definitely am still trying to, like, going through COVID. That's when I started going to my therapist regularly. Um, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things in the world. And it made me more conscious about the things I do, the things I say, the people I hang around with. Um, and yeah, so I think that's a good thing that COVID did, but most of the things were not so positive.
COVID, I feel, sort of reset my brain from my middle school mentality. I was a very shy middle schooler. I didn't really have many friends. I was very alone a lot of the time, so that was already sort of my COVID. That plus it was a small school, like 15 kids in my grade. It was sort of isolating as is, but COVID gave me some time to think and kind of restrained my social interactions even more to the point where, like, when I went back to high school, I was so excited to talk to people again, to meet new people, that now I'm a full blown extrovert. That plus, like, a lot of other personal things that happened during that time. A lot of character development during that time.
Yeah, I think that was like totally the opposite for me because I was so extroverted and now I like tend to keep to myself. I know during COVID it was really hard, but I lost a lot of friends because we just stopped talking
So did I.
naturally, or uh, we disagreed on things that were happening in the world. And yeah, I lost a lot of friends. And when I did end up going back to school full time, I kind of, one, lost my ability to talk to people, and two, I had no one to even talk to in the first place. I would say like a handful of friends, and I didn't have any classes with them really. And so
People
being,
drifted apart.
yeah, being in a new environment like a high school and then having no one to talk to and then losing your ability to talk to people, that is just like one of the hardest things. And even now with this new year that started with the mask mandates no longer here, um, I still felt that it was really hard to just come back to school. Like, I remember the first week of school, I was like, am I still going to wear my mask? Like, what are people going to think of when they see my face? Like, I don't think before COVID I ever thought like, I wonder if people are going to like not think I look what they thought I looked like because they only see half of my face.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then this year the effects were still being definitely felt in the high
absolutely.
school.
Like what happened a month ago in the cafeteria. For those of you that don't know, there was a giant incident at our school recently where a kid's head got stomped on in the cafeteria in a fight that lasted 18 seconds, and the kid ended up being airlifted to a Westchester Medical Center, and we're still feeling the effects of it. It was very traumatic for those that witnessed it. Everybody saw the video. It was being distributed, and we still have to get our bags checked. It's almost the last day of school, and we're still feeling the effects of this one incident. And ever since COVID happened, violence has gone up. There's like fights every week in the hallway now, significantly less because of what happened. But it's kind of scary seeing how COVID has affected people. And sure, I'm sure these people had some issues beforehand, but now after everything that we've all been through, I wouldn't be surprised if it's made things a lot worse.
I know that COVID definitely, when the transition to this year when we didn't have the mask mandates, um that was a really big transition, and I think people just didn't know how to take it and act, and like people, you know, might have not acted the best way.
Yeah.
So I know that I had a schedule. My school ended up putting out a schedule of certain times you should be on certain classes. So, but it was really just really easy. Just log on, turn off your camera, turn off your mic, and just not be present in the class. Um, but with social media, it was. I think that actually kind of helped me with the friends that I had. We ended up we were the only people that we could talk to. Like we talked to each other all the time, and we ended up like would we would FaceTime at like first period, and first period started like 8 a.m. We'd FaceTime the whole entire day. We would just like talk, be like listen on to each other's classes, and then we would like sometimes we would just talk, and then fall asleep, and then wake up, and then realize we're still on the phone, and that just happened. We'd be on the phone for like 2-3 days because that was the only outlet that we had, and so, and with social media, with posting, it and gave us a little entertainment. I know TikTok really was booming during that time because we had really nothing else to do but that. And yeah, so Instagram. But I think it also, well, no, I think a lot of people opened up more on social media about their struggles with mental health issues and how COVID was affecting them. So, and I think right now, a lot of people have become more transparent on the internet about the issues that they're facing, like before COVID, during COVID, and now after COVID, some things that they're still facing and
Yeah.
struggling through.
I mean, you can't talk to your friends. Might as well talk about it on the internet. I didn't use social media. I still don't. The most I had was like Google Hangouts, and that was used to chat with my friend group from middle school at the time. And when COVID first started, I was still in eighth grade. We were using Google Classroom initially, having our Zoom calls. We weren't paying attention, and Google Classroom isn't really like an intuitive platform for assignments, so I was behind on a lot of work. I was failing some classes actually because of how behind I was, but I still had access to my friends, and we would chat for ages. We would, when COVID would lessen up a bit, we would meet up. We went on the rail trail and hiked a bit. We would chat constantly, though this existed like before COVID, but that was sort of my outlet. But as COVID lessened, we sort of grew apart. Uh, Social media, I feel, both positively and negatively impacted a lot of people. Like, it did help them remain social during COVID, but during COVID also it destroyed their attention spans. That's a serious issue, actually. Uh, Nobody can focus anymore. I struggle with it. I will admit it's a struggle. It's a universal struggle. With TikTok, with Instagram Reels, and with now YouTube Shorts catering to this rapidly paced mass media. It's very overwhelming. A lot of information all of the time. People can't focus anymore. People are like more likely to just text their friends or Skype, not Skype, like FaceTime with them rather than go see them in person. But in my circles, generally, that's not as bad. But in the students, especially the underclassmen, they still have the mentality like they're in middle school, I feel. And it was very prominent in our home ec classes. I took chef's workshop last year, which is a home ec elective. We get to cook, we learn food safety and the basics of cooking and stuff. And it was surprising how little care people had for anything. Just the maturity level on kids was stunted by a year or two because of COVID. And I helped with the middle school's food truck competition, which was for their home ec classes. They would design a business model and create menu items for their imaginary food truck, and then they would debut all of the stuff at my school, and they have judges and competitions and everything. And just dealing with these eighth graders, they should be ready for high school, and yet they were still behaving like they were in sixth grade. It was concerning to see, but I feel that slowly they're making a comeback. There was a tank in students' work ethic and attention, but we're coming back, and now there's students that are doing really well.
Um, so yeah, I think that with COVID, it it helped me figure out a lot of new things about myself. And with me dropping a lot of stuff, I found that I enjoyed new things. I found out more stuff about myself that I didn't know that I liked.
So did I.
With I with my bass playing guitar, I play the electric bass. So that was never really something that it was something I enjoyed, but I never really took it that seriously. But I found other outlets with I started doing photography more.
So did I.
Yeah, I started filming more. And I just found other ways to channel my energy into something productive instead of something harmful.
That's exactly what I ended up doing too. I started expanding into other art forms, starting with digital art. I started drawing on my tablet, which is portable, so it was easy for me to go between my parents' houses. And I could do it at school. I did a little bit of drawing beforehand, but never took it that seriously. And then once COVID hit, I didn't have much else to do other than just like sitting there and drawing. And my art got progressively better over time. I started doing it more as a profession as well. And then through that expanded into photography. I have a photo displayed in an art display in City Hall. I'm doing senior art seminar next year. It really took off my ability to do arts. And art is such an important way for people to express ourselves. I feel it's really beneficial to our mental health, to our social skills even. Art is a social thing, even though a lot of people don't think of it. When you picture an artist, you picture someone in the middle of nowhere or in front of a landscape painting the mountains or the beach, but art can be a social thing as well. There's the sip and paint places, there's clubs, so many activities that you can do that can express yourself. And it helped me. It helped many other people. It's truly beneficial. And that's what we stand for, as Max's Fearless Youth, is the usage of arts and other creative outlets to improve mental health and overall your well being.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
watching.